How's it going, ladies and Bruce's? I'm Bobby Sixkilla. Welcome back to the Divine Deception. We have our silver key, which we can finally spend on one storyline. We have two that are blocked by a silver key at the moment. That is specifically Laverna's and Eris. But even though I'm more tempted to go the Laverna route because I found her story more interesting, I feel like because his silver key is quite early on, she's more of a main character. Like I feel like the final act is going to be hers, or near enough. Whereas Eris here, we're already one away from the last act. So I'd rather just get this one finished as quickly as possible and move on, because I don't feel like we're going to get to like fully complete Laverna's one anytime soon. Whereas we could probably finish Eris's one pretty soon. This will probably be a gold key or a green key. But other than that, you know, let's jump in, see what's happening with Eris. Arbitrage. I moved uncomfortably in my chair. I never really felt comfortable sitting in public areas like this. It probably wasn't a good trait to have, though perhaps it was understandable, considering everything. Still, well, she wasn't here yet. I have to kill a bit more time. I took out my phone. Was there anything interesting going on? I looked around the phone for a bit, and then... What's this? I was so taken aback I spoke up audibly. Well, I think surprise was an understandable reaction given what I was looking at. The devil had finally decided to send me a message. How considerate of him. Originally I thought he might have died. Well, now I hadn't thought that. Still, I was dubious as to whether or not I'd get another email from him. But lo and behold, what had fallen into my lap. Well, isn't this quite interesting? Might as well check. See what he has to say. I opened the email. Dear Olaf, apologies for the delay. Sad as it is to say, real-life events took priority for a time. I do not wish to divulge too much. Needless to say, past events have been trying. Because of that, I have not had the time to check my computer for, frankly, anything. The website has been similarly unmaintained, which is a shame, as so many suspicious activities have occurred in my absence. Further proof towards the God undocumented. I need to get on that post-haste, and I shall. But first, I figured I owed you an email, if for no other reason than to let you know that I'm alive and well. So then, now you know. I'm fine. So I can continue aiding your investigation into Panthea. Hopefully in my absence you've continued to collect evidence, bringing us closer to the singular and undeniable truth. If you have, I'd be pleased to hear more about it. Yours, the devil. I read over the email a few more times with bemusement. Well, thank God the devil was still alive. What would I ever do if he wasn't okay? Still, the lines about him being busy with real life over the past bit felt weird to me. Is that what you're going with? I thought about why he would say that. Was that possibly true? What would he have to do to keep him busy over that period of time? I settled on that being a lie, though I couldn't quite place why it was being told. Anyways, I tried thinking up what I should respond with. Alright. This is probably the best way I could put this. Hey devil, glad to hear you're alive and well. And to be honest, I was getting a little worried. Sorry to hear about your life problems. It's a dangerous world out there. I'm sure you have your problems. Hopefully they're resolved at this point. Anyways, on to the matter at hand. I actually come across some interesting information. Stuff I'd love to get your opinion on. I'm almost certain you have some good insight. But before we get to this, I'm sorry, I'd like to backtrack a bit. In my last message that you never really responded to, I had some questions. Specifically about the audio file you sent to me. Like, how'd you get that audio? Again, I understand if you don't want to give specifics. Another question. Do you have any idea who Marduk could be talking to? Or do you know what they talked about before or after the clip you sent? After this clip. I think those questions are essential. If you could answer that, I think we'll be a lot further to solving the mysteries of Panthea and reaching the truth. Thank you, Olaf. And like that, the matter was settled. Well, not settled, but at least I refused to move away from the sticking point. The devil didn't forget those questions on a whim. He intentionally tried to move past them. He didn't want to answer them for some reason. Of course he didn't want to. Still, I wasn't letting him get around it that easily. If he wanted to keep this conversation going, he'd have to address the main issue. I had a feeling he'd continue to evade this main point, but who knows? Maybe I'd get lucky. After sending that email, I turned my attention to Kamapa. Bit of mindless scrolling. And then... hello. I looked up. Oh. Looks like she was here. Lara, right? Yes, that's right. And you're Eris? That's my name. Don't wear it out. Alright, cool. Lara paused awkwardly, looking at me. What? Nothing, just... I feel like I know you. You most certainly don't. Are you sure? Because I swear I recognize you. Ah, that. Yeah, that makes sense. You're Duet affiliated, right? A little hesitantly, Lara nodded. Okay then, you probably recognize my sister then. She's kind of a big shot detective or whatever. Since you're, you know, a criminal and everything, you probably have been briefed on her or something. No. No, I don't think it's that. Yes, I do think it's that. I mean, you sure as shit haven't seen me. Not many opportunities for that. I guess you're right. Shit, I swear I'm remembering something. Why am I blanking on this? Don't you have bigger things to worry about? You're right. You're definitely right. So, how do you know, Lara trailed off. She didn't want to say the name here. Fair enough. I just shrugged. I don't really. Huh? Don't really know them that well. What? But almost immediately, he gave me a note with your email. I mean, I'm online friends with them. Maybe friends is a strong term. I classify it more as acquaintances. But maybe I'm just cold. My point is, I've never met them in IRL. So, see my surprise when I ended up getting your email. I mean, this whole thing seemed massively over my head, to be honest. But you know, I'm selfish. And greedy. And your situation seemed manageable. So I said yes. Still though, for me to be the first person for them to recommend, this must be a pretty desperate situation. That or they don't have many friends. Probably a mix of the two if I had to guess. Fair enough. Anyways, as luck would have it, I used to be a lawyer, which means I should be able to help you out somewhat. Again, they shouldn't have known that, so it's quite weird that I was the person they recommended, but let's not dwell on that. Well, that's a small relief. You look super reliable, so I'm real happy to have you on my side. Oh, thanks, I guess. Still, even with your help, I can't help but feel nervous. The situation that I'm in, it's really rough. I mean, you're just a normal citizen. We can go with that. I kind of feel bad about getting you involved, because this is dangerous and tricky. I've become a target on all sides. I mean, you used to be a lawyer. That's really cool. Probably could be useful. But I don't think that's going to be enough in this case. Seriously? Were you always this much of a pessimist? Huh? Dangerous situation, my ass. This is the epitome of looking a gift horse in the mouth. The only reason people have turned on you is because the city is full of selfish assholes only out for themselves. That's a good thing. Right now, an extremely useful asset has fallen into your lap. You can treat it like a burden if you want. That's the dumb outlook. God, you're lucky that you're connected to me, huh? Huh? Look, Lara. We're about to turn this burden of yours into a huge asset. This should solve most of your problems. We just have to be smart. Well, I have to be smart. I'm smart. Why are you saying it like that? Look, when you make a claim, it needs to be backed with evidence. Right now, I've yet to see that evidence. You know, I've just been nice to you so far. Yeah, don't bother with that. I find that sort of ass-kissing wholly unnecessary. Okay then. You're kind of a bitch, you know. Oh, I'm aware. But I'm the bitch you have to rely on right now, right? Cool. Jeez. How'd I get to this point? I sure as hell don't know. I just have a vested interest in making sure you live to be a thorn in shittier people's sides another day. Right. Right. Lara looked down. I could tell she was having second thoughts about this whole endeavor. I could hardly blame her. I mean, for her to trust me with no context like this. Good for me, I guess. But it really signaled how lost she was. No, not lost. That didn't feel right. Rather, shaken up? That might be a more accurate descriptor. It made a bit more sense too. Motive aside, the end result was the same. Lara here wasn't on her top game. Well, she would need to be for the next bit. I plan to do most of the talking. Still, I thought it was probably worthwhile to boost her spirits, at least somewhat. Didn't want her making a fuss of things and blowing it when it counts. Hey listen, I know you're going through some shit. A lot of people in this city are. But I'm gonna need your eyes on the prize. From what I've heard, you're a pretty strong individual, yeah? I mean, it's that strength that landed you here. That's one way to view it, sure. Good, use that. Lara nodded, though I could tell she wasn't fully in. Oh well, I tried. Look, Lara, I know this must be weird for you. From your perspective, you have absolutely no incentive to trust me. However, you more than anybody should recognize that this is a tenuous situation. We need things to go exactly right if we want to make it out ahead. I've already gotten things lined up. I can do most of the work, but given the tight schedule I've set up for this, I don't think I'm going to have time to fully explain the plan to you. What? I know, not ideal. But Lara, you're just gonna have to trust me. Can you do that? Can you put your faith in this complete stranger? Trust that I actually thought things through and did my homework. This is stupid. This is so damn stupid. But fine. As you've already so delicately put it, I'm kind of out of options. So fine. That's the spirit. Is it? It's a spirit. It's good enough. I operate in good enough. It's not making me feel better about this arrangement. Look, just follow my lead and trust me. You'll be leaving me today a happy woman. Probably. Hopefully. To be honest, I'm kind of playing your hand for you with this arrangement, which is sort of lame on my part. But trust me that this is, in my opinion, absolutely the best move you can make. Yeah, whatever. Look, I know you said we're on a tight schedule, but it seems to me that if you can make these sort of metaphors, you can give me the abbreviated version of what I'm about to walk into. That fair? It is. That is, extremely fair. So, the long and short of it, let's see. How to explain it? Do you know what your biggest problem is right now? This does not seem the fastest way to explain your problem. Right now, you've been put in the crosshair of a lot of people. That's because of the will stipulation. I'm aware. Well, if that's what's drawing a target towards you, then you simply need to rid yourself of said stipulations. Honestly, if you just wanted to reset the situation, that'd be incredibly easy. But that's a waste, and I'm greedy. Instead, what we need to... I paused, interrupted by the man who had just entered the room. I don't say this about a lot of people, but this guy really did command attention. Not just his status. He had the personality for it, as much as I hated to admit it. Anyways, his entrance meant that we were now in the plan. Walking into the Olimpo building, first floor waiting room was one Art Deismer, dressed in his business best. To his side he carried a nondescript briefcase. He tried his best to put on a neutral face, but his eyes belied a simmering anger, which in this case may have been understandable. As far as I understood it, things had not been working out well for Art as of late. Luckily I was here to remedy that. As if, my oh my, lucky us. We seem to be graced with the presence of Art Deismer right before our very eyes. Oh please, there's no need for any of that. Art took a seat on the other side of the room. You must be Eris Smith, correct? Wow, and you even know my name. I'm so honoured. If I understand it, this isn't your first time sitting in this room. Ah, guilty as charged. I know nothing was proved. However, I can't help but feel a bit of indignation towards you. That might be fair, but to be clear, anything I may or may not have done was done completely impersonally. Honestly, I have far more resentment towards my Judas sister for pointing your direction toward my presence here than I do towards you. For the record, your sister is the only reason I'm entertaining this little meeting. I would hold off on disparaging her if I were you. Oh wow, someone actually defending Laverna? That's a real first. Were you charmed by your unstable charms? Got a thing for lunatics? Okay, this is getting puerile. Is this how the meeting will go? Oh, come off it, Art. I'm just trying to break the ice. I wanted to know how deep the stick in your ass is plunged. Now I know. And you must be Lara, correct? That's right. Nice to speak with you. For the first time. Subtle. You know, your appearance totally matches your voice. Surprisingly, I can say the same to you. Oh, you charmer. Ugh. Let's just get started. Let's. I quite prefer not to have known a duet member seen in my building. Haven't known duet member seen in our building. Tarnishes the reputation. Are you serious? You didn't have to meet here, you know. I didn't pick the meeting spot. I was just trying to be cordial. Come to you. We could have met in my office. No, I'd rather this be done in public. Don't want a duet scene? You're saying you're better than us? Yes. Why you... Well, that went south pretty quick. You must have some guts acting so above it all given what you tried to pull earlier today. I did nothing. And that was simply business. As a gang member, I would have thought you'd understand that. Business. Something we should be talking about. Did nothing. That how you see that? Naturally. Wow. You know, I met a lot of scumbags. I'm friends with a lot of them. But actually, thinking you're not as much of a sinner as any duet member? That's a level of self-delusion that's even new to me. Bold words for a self-obsessed tramp. Excuse me? What, are you surprised that I would have objections to you seducing my father? If I were talking about Lowe's, that must be the record setter. Seduce? What the fuck are you talking about, you creep? Really trying to deny it? Remember who you're talking to. Oh, I'm keenly aware. And I'm keenly aware about the weeks you spent living with Odin alone in his mansion. This was a novel money-making scheme, I must admit. Never thought Odin of all people would fall for it. That's not... He totally misread the situation. It wasn't like that at all. Oh really? Then you mean for me to believe that my father decided to name you his chief inheritor because what? You particularly impressed him? You think I know what goes on in that crazy fuck's head? And also, do you even know your own dad? Of fucking course he'd throw his kids to the curb if he thought I was more worthy. Exactly. He'd have to think a tactless lowlife thug duet was somehow more worthy than his eldest son, who's followed in his footsteps perfectly. Wow, look at the ego on this guy. It's not a matter of ego. Odin looks down on the duets. He'd never accept you. Lara had nothing to say about this, probably because she agreed with Art's assessment. Now felt like a good enough time to speak up. I'm just gonna interject for a second. Maybe Odin's reasoning for this whole thing is weird. Surprise, surprise, the man's unpredictable. But because you couldn't accept his explanation, Art, you decided the reason that Lara slept with a senior citizen. That kind of feels like a leap on your part. And more to the point, regardless of what actually happened, calling Lara a tramp like that during a business deal? I mean, talk about tactless. Just saying, this ain't a good look for you. Real ungentlemanly or whatever. Being honest, I expected to get some blowback from this. Art to try and suppress some rage, and true, I spotted an initial flash of annoyance. But after that annoyance, Art's face took on a more complete contemplative expression, and then, after another moment, I saw... Maybe I was getting this mixed up, but that seemed to be embarrassment. Huh. Art actually seemed ashamed with his behaviour. Didn't expect that to actually work. You're entirely correct, Miss Smith. Apologies, Lara. My behaviour just now was entirely unacceptable. You must forgive me. These past few days have been trying, as you well know. I've accumulated a healthy amount of stress, and I fear that combined with my anger at Odin, culminated in an outburst you saw. Still, such language towards a lady is completely improper. So, sorry. Lara seemed equally surprised at the response from Art. Subtly, I elbowed her in the side. Genuine or not, it'd be best if Lara just apologised now. It'd smooth things over quite nicely for the meeting. Luckily, Lara seemed to catch my drift. I get it. I mean, I also don't know what Odin was thinking. And I mean, you pretty much spent your whole life following Odin, trying to get him to acknowledge you as his successor, right? So to hear him say that he was willing his Olimpo stock to me in the case of his death, that must have come across as a total slap in the face. Art didn't say anything, but once again his expression wasn't as hidden as he probably wished it to be. Yeah, that probably would be pretty rage-inducing. So I'm fine to just move on with what we're here to discuss. Aw. Once again, we're one big happy family. Eris, were you not the one pushing for us to focus on business? It seems you're now the impediment on that front. Yeah, don't get your panties in a bunch. I got the papers right here. I reached down into my bag and rifled through some papers. I looked carefully, making sure I took out the right sheet. Finally, I placed it down on the waiting room table in front of Art. Drafting this up did not make me miss the law profession, I can tell you that. Contract work is a total snooze fest. Although, you know, I do like debating. And it'd be a waste to let the degree become meaningless. Maybe I should try transitioning into a trial lawyer. As I mused to myself, Art began reading over the papers with a discerning eye. Given the nature of this meeting, Art had chosen not to bring any personal lawyers. Thank Christ. But he was also far too savvy to fall for some trick like hiding a clause in the litany of legalese. To save us both time, I made the arrangement as brief as I could make it. Anyways, this is just the standard stuff. Transferring the stock to you, etc. It is? Art looked up from the paper. Is it just me or does it sound like you didn't actually know what these papers did, Lara? What? No, I totally read over the papers myself. That was quick. Looks like Lara really did decide to put her fate in my hands. Art, stay on target. Lara is well aware of the arrangement. The question is, do you understand it? It's not an awful lot to understand. If I sign this, upon Odin's death, any shares in Olimpo owned by Odin, willed to Lara, will automatically be transferred under my control. In exchange, I pay her the agreed amount. Exactly. And the contract in your hand specifies just that. That gave me pause. It felt like that represented not just a pause as Art read the contract, but also a pause as to whether to take this deal. Time to push. Say, Art, if I'm right, you have a 30% stake in Olimpo, right? Art raised an eyebrow at this. You know this. Hey, you two aren't the only people who know things. My point is, right now you have a plurality stake in Olimpo, but not a majority. That means your position as CEO is, in theory, at risk. But if you combine Odin's 25% with your 30%, well, I'm sure a talented businessman like you could do the math. Yes, I'm well aware of these factors. Still, that is only true when Odin passes away. He's old, but he's fierce. Who knows when his time may come? Yeah, who knows? Old man like that, an accident could happen any day now. I was actually taken aback. Are you implying, hey, it's the Daisman way to take what you're owed, no matter who gets in the way? I'm sure Odin would respect you for taking control in the most effective way. Time to give a final push. And you know, this deal isn't exclusive. I'm sure your brother will be able to put a 25% share in Olimpo to good use, don't you think? He should be around here somewhere, right? Okay. Point abundantly made. There's no deliberation to be made. The deal is the only option, the best option for both Lara and I. And the agreed upon price, a small one to pay for what this grants me. Art nodded. Then he took his pen out from his pocket. He leaned down and without another moment's hesitation signed the contract. Awesome. Now Lara, you just have to sign and we can be settled. Lara gave me a side eye. For the first time since Art walked in, I could sense that feeling again of her unsure of whether to trust me. However, it only lasted for a moment. Pass me your pen if you would, Art. Art complied and Lara signed on her side. And there we go. Deal made. Contract formed. Indeed. Art picked up the signed deed, clearly treasuring it quite a good deal. Then, if there's nothing else to discuss, I'll write you a check and I can be on my way. Excuse me? Not credit. Cash. Cash? You serious? For a deal like this, you expect me to give out that amount of cash? If at all possible, that'd be nice. As much as you like to pretend otherwise, I'm sure this office of yours upstairs easily has that much tucked away somewhere. Just in case Big Brother decides to take just a little bit of a closer look at these accounts of yours. How clever. Mind going up and fetching that cash for us, Art? I'd prefer not to. Art reached down and lifted a suitcase, and then he handed it out to me. Here, the agreed upon amount. I opened up the suitcase as Art got to his feet. Sure enough, there was a buttload of cash in there. Holy! I thumbed through it quickly, making sure it was all legit. Sure enough, this was it. This was all real, the agreed upon amount. I closed the suitcase and handed it to Lara. That'll work. I thought so. Art began to make his way out of the room. Before he left, however, I had one last question for him. Hey, if you brought this down here, why'd you try to pay with a check? Miss Smith, Lara, this has been a pleasure. And just like that, Art Deismer left the waiting room, a suitcase loaded with cash, a key with cash poorer. Whoa, did that really? I checked the time. Yeah, I think that went pretty well. And I'm glad we were able to turn that around so quickly. Honestly, I thought I cut it too close when I was setting these up. Wait, setting what up? It's fine, we finished in time. In time for what? As if on cue, the door opened right up once more, and another Deismer brother entered the fray. Entering the waiting room was Polly Deismer, holding a satchel bag. Unlike Art, Polly looked genuinely relaxed. He walked over and sat down next to Lara and I. Polly, what an honour to have a Deismer brother in our presence. Oh, stop. It's not an honour to have me around. Now you bring in Art, maybe. But me? Nah, I'm not an honour. It seems overly harsh. You're as much of a member of the Panthea elite as your brother. That just shows how little you know about Panthea's elite. Polly and I seem to be getting along swimmingly. However, I couldn't help but be aware of the very nervous set of eyes looking at me from the side. Sure enough, Lara was very anxious with this turn of events. Which, fair enough. She wasn't given advance notice. My fault there. I told her to just go along with it. Trust that I knew what I was doing. That I was getting her the best deal. Well, me the best deal. But it'd benefit us both when you think about it. I just gave her a subtle nod and a reassuring look. This only seemed to make Lara more confused. Ah well, she just have to keep up. So you're Era Smith, right? Oh, how'd you guess? I mean, you're the splitting image of your sister. Like, you look identical. You're acquainted? Yeah, actually, just a little bit. I had a talk with her not long ago at a crime scene thingy. Ugh. Was she annoying? Laverna? No, I don't really think so. She was actually pretty cool about things. Laverna. Cool. Are you sure this is my sister we're talking about? I'm sensing a bit of sibling rivalry. You could say that. Ah, well, I hope you are able to patch it up. But I understand that if the differences are, well, irreconcilable. I mean, I don't think our situation is anything like yours, if that's the parallel you're drawing. Well, that's good. Polly turned his attention to Lara. And you? You must be the lovely Lara. Guilty. Pleased to meet you, Mr. Deismer. Really, it's exciting for me. Much the same. Man, I gotta know. What did you do to get Pops to actually formally respect you like that? Honestly? I'm not really sure. Yeah, well, that makes two of us. I don't know how many years of my life I've tried to get him to acknowledge me the way he did you. Don't take that as me slighting you or anything. For as flawed as that old bastard was, he tended to be pretty sharp. So if he decided to will you his shares, you must be pretty cool. Thank you. That's very kind of you to say. But to be honest, I never really wanted those shares. Which is what we're doing here today. It's such a great deal. Really, this is a situation everyone wins in. Lara here gets money. Who doesn't like money? No one. Right. And you, Polly? You get 25% of Olimpo's shares. He does? He does. I mean, it's a bit trickier than that. You know, technically he'll be transferred the shares that are willed to you when Odin kicks the bucket. But you can't imagine Odin to have that many years left in him. I wouldn't count him out. That man has energy. Energy. Energy does little in the face of disease. Is that right? Let's say it is. Polly, I know you've been dissatisfied with Art's rule of Olimpo. You're looking for an in. Up until now, Art has appeared, to put it mildly, unassailable. But that's because he had Odin in his back pocket. Odin's shares combined with Art kept him completely untouchable. But this is your one opportunity. Make this agreement and combine what you stand to gain with the shares you already own. You'll be the chief shareholder. You'll effectively own Olimpo. I know funds on your end are tight. Unlike Odin and Art, you don't have unlimited funds. But if there's ever a time to spend, now's the time. In terms of investments, this is a surefire deal that'll pay out in tens of times in the long run. You would be, to put it bluntly, a massive idiot to walk away right now. Hey, you can save the pitching. I'm already fully on board. Gotta admit, the asking price for those shares is a little steep for my current budget. But as you said, it's more than worth it. And even putting profit aside, this is my one chance to put a stop to Art. He needs to be stopped. In his blind pursuit of Odin, he's become like our dad. That's not somebody you want to become like. Really, in a way, I'm doing this for his own good. Yeah, I don't really care about any of that. The question is, you ready to make the deal? Polly nodded. I already came prepared. I got my payment right here. Polly slapped the bag he held. Ready to give it to you as soon as we make the deal? Well then, let's make this deal and get paid. Eris, are you sure? Oh, come on, Lara. This is enough. Don't try to fleece the poor man for more money. Jeez, lady, you really want to up the price? What? No. With killer instincts like that, I can see why Odin took a liking to you. As this exchange played out, I reached into my bag once more and pulled out a near-identical contract. I presented it to Polly, who quickly skimmed it. Okay, alright, this all seems cool. I start at the bottom? Yep. Do you have a pen I can borrow? Sure, give me a second. I reached into the side pockets of my bag and fished out an older pen. I handed it to Polly, who swiftly used it to sign the name and the relevant space on the contract. Then he held it out to Lara. Here, you can use this to sign your part. Lara? I gave her a look. Vocally I said nothing, but I hope my intent with the look spoke volumes. Remember what I asked. Trust me. I know what I'm doing. Lara continued to hesitate. Then her face steeled, and she reached out to grab the pen. She took a deep breath and signed her name next to Polly's at the bottom of the contract. And voila! A binding contract is made. Congratulations everybody, litigation has passed. Woo! Hooray! Alright then, Polly. Make sure you take the contract. Keep it safe. And it acts as the proof of agreement. Without it, the deal is sort of null and void. I know. I understand contracts and stuff. I'm just saying, your brother seems like the type to not hold his punches. If he learns of this arrangement, he might try to steal it from you. So lock that contract up safe. Gotcha. Hey, shouldn't Lara have a copy of this too or something? I mean, that's standard protocol, but unnecessary. And we already left standard protocol a few steps back. Generally, contracts like this aren't just assembled by non-practicing lawyers and signed in a matter of minutes. But it's legit, yeah? Oh, most definitely. People joke about the law being arcane and unfair and overly specific, but that usually refers to grand contractual law, the type of stuff that affects thousands of people. For personal contracts, the rules are a lot looser and intent matters a whole lot more. Honestly, the sheet I drew up there was a bit more than necessary. As long as there's some sort of proof that there was an offer, an acceptance, a consideration, a mutuality of obligation, and that both parties were both competent and capable of entering into the agreement, it'll hold up. Huh. The more you learn. So now I give you the money? That would be preferable, yes. Okay, here you go. Polly leaned over and handed me the bag. I, in turn, opened it and briefly checked it. At an eyeball's glance, it seemed more or less the amount agreed upon. I continued to pass the bag to Lara, who was still visibly uneasy. Great. Pleasure doing business with you. And me to you. Polly stood up, content with the interaction. However, I decided to throw something to him before he left. You know, like you said, you never know when Odin will actually pass away. Yeah, you know, it's hard to tell. In the meantime, you still won't have any way to stop Art. To put it another way, Art remains in control as long as Odin stays alive. Yeah, and? I just shrugged. Just something to consider. If you really want to save Art or whatever. Polly's face suddenly became a lot more conflicted. He wasn't actually dumb. He caught onto the bait rather immediately, and he considered it. Without saying anything else, Polly just continued to leave the waiting room. Finally, Lara and I were left alone in the room. For a moment or two, there was just silence. We were the only ones left in the waiting room. Our business done, and then, after a brief calm, Lara exploded. What the hell was that? That was me getting you off the hook. With, I might add, a sweet amount of cash. Off the hook? Off the hook? You absolute moron. You blithering idiot. How dumb can you get? Okay, hurtful. Do you not get what you just did? I'm so screwed. I'm on the hook with 2 separate contracts co-signing me to do 2 completely opposite things. Whenever Odin dies, which now seems a lot more likely since you just provoked both his sons into killing him. Yes, I noticed that. Actually, what the fuck? I owe you 2 separate people 25% stake in Olimpo. I won't be able to pay up. And I go to jail for at least a decade. Hey, calm down. Relax. This is a relaxing situation. It is? I'm sure as hell not relaxing. Yeah, and see, that's the problem. I said trust me, didn't I? You did. And for some stupid reason, I believed you. Exactly. You trusted me. Now give me a moment and I'll explain exactly why that was the right decision for you. But first, why don't you just take a breath? Good. Now let me review some facts. Right now, you and Art and Polly, and quite a lot of people, are labouring under the assumption that Odin decided to write in his will that you would inherit all of his stock in Olimpo's company upon his death. Apparently this is based upon some loose description of you proving your worth to him. That, in combination with his sons disappointing him, led to this decision. Now I ask you, does that make any sense? Any sense? I mean, it makes some amount of sense. Okay, bad example, this isn't a flat on its face lunacy. It isn't the slightest way plausible. To rephrase, is the situation probable? No. Exactly, this doesn't make a lot of sense. You understood this. Art understood this. Polly understood this, yet none of you actually thought about what that meant. As you pointed it out, Odin simply doesn't respect the duets. He might be disappointed in his sons, but he also absolutely views them as his legacy. Everything points towards it. And I hate to say it, but I don't think he'd actually ever consider you his worthy successor. At least, he wouldn't spring this on you without meeting with you. Okay, actually maybe he would do that, but still, this stinks to high heaven. And so when I heard the story from the person who sent you my way, I decided to actually do a bit of research on my own. Now normally, I like internet research, but I'm adaptable. I had another online friend who was handsy, good with getting into places. To make a long story short, I paid them to give Odin's mansion a little private visit, see if they could actually find this deadly will. And surprise, surprise, my friend did find the will. Turns out no additions or alterations had been made. You mean, that's right, you, Lara, are willed nothing, which means those contracts that Polly and Art just signed, they're worth nothing. But wait, that's exactly what I intended. Remember, you weren't signing away 25% stock in Olimpo. You were signing away whatever you were willed when Odin died. If you were willed nothing, you owe nothing to either. For a moment, Lara just took in this information. But wait, no, that can't be right. Odin told Art and Polly about my inheritance. There was a video, I saw it. Odin was lying. The video must have been a fabrication. Why, who's to say? Maybe he did feel disappointed in his sons. Maybe he thought that this would light a fire under their asses. Honestly, trying to read that man's mind is a complete waste of time. Hold on though. Doing this puts a target on my head. I could have been killed. I almost was. Yeah, it's messed up. Odin's cruel. I don't think he'd do that to me. Odin wouldn't want me to get hurt. That is, if this was really Odin's idea in the first place. I shrugged my shoulders. I don't know what to say, Lara. Other than you might be giving Odin's morality a bit too much credit. Lara didn't have a good response to that. It wasn't one, frankly. So then what'll happen when Odin does die? The shares will be distributed as initially stipulated. Art will get 20%, Polly 5%. I can't imagine either will be happy with you. But Art will still likely be in control, so he'll be manageable. And Polly will be pissed, but he presents no real threat. Especially when you consider that you'll probably be a major duet hotshot. I mean, Lara, look at what you're holding on to. Art and Polly both broke major bank trying to get that stock. Turn that cash into your little gang. I have to imagine Marduk's gonna look pretty favourably on that shit. I mean, if I was a gang leader, if someone brought back a payday like this, it'd be an instant promotion in my eyes. And use that money, it should buy you quite a bit of leeway. Lara just considered this for a moment, then she nodded. She understood what I was trying to make you see. That actually she was in an incredibly lucky position. Wow, that's... Thank you, Eris. Really. I mean, you didn't know me before today, but you really gave it your all. And to put it frankly, you saved me. That really means a lot. Yeah, well, as much as I'd like to say that I did it out of the goodness of my heart, I'm not exactly that much of a saint. Oh? 10%. What? 10%? 10% of the cash I just made you. I want it. That seems entirely fair. Oh, right. Sure. I mean, you're right, that does seem fair. Great. You can load it into this bag. And for a third time I opened the bag that I brought. This time, however, instead of taking anything out, things were put in it. Lara and I took a bit of time to count out and deposit 10% of the day's profits into the bag. After a bit, I zipped it back up. There. So you see, I'm not some selfless angel. Just like anyone else in this city, I was just out for myself. I get it now. Still, thank you. You're welcome. Alright, well, feels weird just leaving like this, but I guess this is goodbye. Feels weird, huh? Lucky me. It's nice for a departure to be weird. Yeah, well. Lara stopped in her tracks. Then she looked over me one more time. Oh my god, because Eris is Mercury. That's why. That's why she thinks she knows us. Because Eris and Mercury are the same person. And she was with Mercury on the boat. And it was weird when she left that time too. Why? Why? It doesn't matter. Thank you. I hope you succeeded in whatever you need to do. So she realizes now, she knows that we're Mercury. And with those surprisingly solemn words, Lara walked away. Finally, it was just me in the waiting room. And now that I was alone, I took the opportunity to just collapse into my chair. Then I began stretching out my limbs. Jeez, that was exhausting. And my work was far from over. Anyways, I wish the best for Lara. I really did. I mean, she needed it. After all, a friend breaking into Odin's mansion? Seriously? She bought that? Well, desperation makes you eager to believe in escape ropes. Still, she should have thought a bit harder about that. The timeline of how things played out, how unreasonable my story was. Truth is, I have no idea what Odin's will said. It's not like it was a total lie. I did have a decent feeling he was just bluffing. Then again, it was Odin. He might very well go for it. Either way, it wasn't my problem. I'd gotten what I wanted. Both Art and Polly had been separated from a great amount of money. That money was going right into the duet's unreliable hands. Using that leverage, Lara would now likely push for the duet headship. Which of course would cause disruptions and conflict. And perhaps more interestingly, I had aimed Art and Polly's targets towards their own father, and we're going to use that money for Buck's campaign. Because not only are we Eris and Mercury, but we're also Locke, who is running Buck's campaign. A move I could only expect Odin entirely counted on. I thought back to my aimless days of just searching the web for random shit. In retrospect, it really just felt like I was meandering directionless. It wasn't productive. Comparatively, now that I moved with purpose, with intent, well, it was far more fulfilling. With that thought, I pulled out my laptop and checked my email. And surprise, surprise, the devil had responded. Responded in a completely encrypted message. I guess solving that little audio file puzzle of his made him more willing to just encrypt shit he didn't want peering eyes looking at. Fine, I'd make quick work of it. God damn it. We're already 38 minutes in and you're gonna throw one of these at me now? Come on, game. That's bullshit. Well, you're not gonna have to sit through it because I'm gonna cut ahead to when I think that I've got it correct. And if I don't, we're gonna skip it. Because that's how we do. Bring you back. Alright, this looks good to me. I'm gonna call it done. None of these are joined. That's good. The reds are together. That's good. They're all the right number. There's no blocks of 2x2 that aren't filled in from what I can see. Called it. And it's wrong. I don't think I understand this game still. Not gonna lie, I don't think I get it. How is that wrong? Alright, once again we're gonna skip it. I'm gonna say, this is my solution. Point out where it's wrong. And let's skip it, shall we? Overkill, thy name is Devil. Well then, why don't we see what our good friend went through the trouble of encoding? Dear Olaf, these are all good questions, important questions. Unfortunately, to answer them, I'd have to fully tip my hand. To explain them, I'd have to give away parts of myself that are pretty crucial. It's more revealing about myself than I feel comfortable with. Normally under no circumstances would I speak about it. However, I can't help but feel that I'm running out of time in a way. Panthea is getting worse. Every day I feel like it. And after so many years, I've gotten almost nowhere. I need to make change, and Olaf, I believe you may be that change. Partnering with a bona fide detective feels like the best chance I could get. So then, I'm willing to divulge everything. I mean everything. However, I have one reservation. And that's this email thread. I know, it sounds overly conspiratorial, but nothing online is truly safe. I get the feeling you understand what I meant when I said that. I'm going to encode this message just in case, but even then, there's no guarantee of anything. Maybe this is a little much. I just don't want to leave things up to chance. So then is there any chance you'd be willing to meet up in person? Your friend, the devil. I felt a smirk cross my face. I couldn't help it. I tried, but the smirk appeared nonetheless. This is it, huh? This is what it came to. This is how we were doing things. Alright. Okay. I can roll with this. I can more than roll with this. I wasn't quite sure what he was thinking. What he was planning. And having the devil come out in person? I think I've been waiting for that quite a bit of time. So then, there really was only one way I was ever going to respond to that email. Devil. Let's choose a time and a place. Gold key collected. Yes. Ah, the old hustle. A timeless classic. You gotta hand it to Eris. They really played the situation with a precise hand. Art, Polly, Odin, Lara. She had them all dancing to her tune. Didn't think she had it in her. It's pretty clear that she resolved the situation by getting everybody to think what she wanted. Now, what exactly she wanted people to think, and why remains ambiguous at this point, but I'm sure we'll see the full picture before long. Hopefully. Speaking of motivation, what do you think of that Odin, huh? That whole thing? Certainly interesting. Odin isn't a man to do things lightly. At the same time, the old fool is something of a slave to his own whims. Perhaps it was a rogue impulse. Perhaps. Funnily enough, it seemed as though Eris didn't actually know whether or not the will was real. I doubt she cared either, so you're left with something of a question mark on that end. Did the great Odin Deismer really entrust his fortunes to a common criminal? Or was it a ploy of some type? That answer is somewhat lost to the shadows. What do you think? Does the will exist or not? Does it exist? I mean, he has a will. Everybody has a... I mean, he's an old man. Of course he has a fucking will. But does it declare everything to her? No. I don't think so. You doubt its existence, huh? Like they said, I believe that he might be disappointed in his sons, but they're his legacy, as far as he's concerned. It's the Deismer blood, the blood of royalty that he goes on about, you know. You know, I said the answer is lost to the shadows, but that's not entirely true. I know the truth. So then, are you willing to bet on your guess? Yep. Excellent. How much? 5, like usual. Alright. Well, no use beating around the bush. I can reveal to you that the will Odin supposedly wrote was entirely fabricated. Yes, well, truly Odin is a man of strong whims, one who respects competence and loathes complacency. His sense of elitism far outstrips his ambition. If you ask me, his more outlandish eccentricities are skin deep. Something he likes to indulge in, but not something he can truly commit to. He's not so far gone that he'd actually entrust his will to anybody not of blood relation. That's what I thought. And to me, that's even worse. Anyway, the bet. You won, so here's your payout. Good work, I guess. Anyways, if the will wasn't real, I wonder what the point of it all was. Just to fuck with his sons? Perhaps. Perhaps. I have some ideas, but I'm going to keep my mouth quiet. Just keep going through the stacks. So we got a gold key, and the last one of these isn't even locked. So we're not using our gold key there. We can use our gold key on Vel's one though. I say we finish this stack in the next episode with number 8, and then we'll go to Vel's gold key and start finishing that stack. Getting close to the end now. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for getting out with me, and I'll see you in the next one.